Hey, Ohio. Welcome once again to the Retirement Blueprint Show with Tim Lofton of Axum Planning and Wealth. I'm Spike Spangle. On today's program, we're going to talk about some current events that could be affecting your financial situation in retirement. Current events and what else, Tim?
Other things that keep you up at night.
Oh, it doesn't have to keep us up at night.
But it does.
Some of the stuff is. Yeah.
Some of the stuff, if you spend too much time, I mean, my mom watches a lot of news, and she's always asking me about current events. And, hey, I read, this, or I heard that, or they said, if this happens, the end of the world's going to happen. And, I mean, think back to 1999, right? The computers were going to shut down. The end of the world was going to happen in 2000.
I remember that whole New Year's, 2-3 months of everybody talking about how all of the computers were going to crash all at the same time.
When Prince wrote that 1999 song way back when I was in high school, I think, I don't know that that's what he had in mind.
Yeah. Well, in fact, at 2001 Space Odyssey, computers were supposed to be talking to us by then.
That's right.
Right?
Flying cars. It's coming.
But there are a lot of things in the news today. We want to make sure that you are aware of them. We always do show like this every quarter or so. Kind of pay attention to what's going on for you, the viewers. And do you or do you not need to do something to your portfolios or your entire retirement strategy? First one is, we did see interest rates finally come down. We talked about it for 2 years, man.
Yeah, well, we remember in January, we were on radio and we were talking about how, that it was imminent. Within the next month or two, they were going to lower interest rates. And then, Goldman Sachs came out with a study and somebody else came out with a study. And we've reported on interest rates going down all year. It finally happened.
So we're finally correct.
We're finally correct.
Well, we weren't trying to predict, though.
No,
we were saying
we were telling what other people were predicting.
Yeah, the
that doesn't make us wrong.
indications were there.
That's right.
Right. Now, normally they go down by 0.25 points to 25 basis points, as they say in the industry. This one was a full half point.
Yes.
Is that why did that happen so severely?
Well, I think it was expected. I mean, that's certainly what we thought in our office, and there was a lot of economists that thought that as well. And I think it was kind of maybe there should have been a quarter-point reduction a little earlier, and so it was kind of a catch-up. But it had the impact. We expected that to happen. So.
Well, one of the things we've been talking about over the last 6 months or so has been, of course, refinancing your retirement. Right. We're worried about this interest rate window closing down.
Yes.
Okay, this has now finally come down. Have you seen an immediate effect on the tools that are based on interest rates yet?
There was. In fact, in some cases, I know with like annuity companies, before the rate decrease actually happened, they had already reduced rates and started to reduce rates ahead of that, which is normal. But that's why we were talking about that for quite a few months. Here's the good news: rates are still high. They're not as high as they were, a half a point lower, but the opportunity is still there. If you have some of the older rates, the older products, this may still be an opportunity for you.
Are there other areas where this is either good or bad? What do the lowering currently of interest rates do for us? And this is not the 1970s when interest rates were really high. I don't know if it has the same kind of effect today as it does 40 years ago.
Well, I don't think it has the same impact as that period of time. Obviously, we had some rates that were significantly higher than even what we got to. But think about things like car purchases. Interest rates have dropped on that. Refinancing your house, probably not. A lot of people have those lower rates already locked in. But for people buying a house right now, those rate drops absolutely help. It reduces the payment, allows you to maybe afford a little bit more house than you originally had planned on. So it definitely has an impact in some positive areas.
Does this automatically bring down credit card rates? Does this help in the pocketbook at home and any other quick manner for somebody who's not just buying a house?
Yeah, typically it does. I mean, listen, when taxes drop, it impacts everything. Because if you think about, just think about corporate America. They have debt. All large companies have debt. When you reduce the cost of interest to a company, they make more money, right? Which is a good thing for the stock market. It also sometimes leads to a lowering of prices of goods and services. bottom line is we end up with more money in our pocketbook.
Okay. What about in the bond world? The bond, I don't want to just say individual bonds, but usually a lot of folks use bond funds. Does this make a difference? Have you talked to the portfolio managers with Axum?
Yeah, absolutely. And what our team has been looking at in this lowering interest rate environment is trying to rebound from what we saw in 2022. If you remember 2022, with all the interest rate increases, when interest rates go up, bond values go down, right? And so we saw that with, a lot of people have that 60-40 portfolio, 60% stocks, 40% bonds. And we saw the market not only get beat up a little bit, but also with interest rates, bonds got beat up. And actually the 60-40 was down 17% in 2022. It was actually the worst market since 1931.
Yeah, and those combined funds, things like target date funds and so forth, people thought this was on the easy button.
Yes.
It's going to reduce risk for me. And when you increase the bond portion inside something like a target date fund, as you got closer to retirement, that didn't work very well for you.
Right, but now the inverse can happen. As rates drop, we'll see those bond values increase. And so hopefully we'll see a nice little rebound historically as we look back at this time period.
We had one of your partners come with us on one of the television programs here. I know he knows a lot about the portfolios. Right now, with interest rates coming down, what would you like to say to viewers about getting a review? I just don't know. Is there something they should be moving to or reviewing right now, or is it hold the course and they're okay?
Well, listen, I think when you look at the period that we're in right now, I don't think that has anything to do with whether or not you should have a review. I think a review just makes sense, regardless of the economic times. I know people, they worry about the election, they worry about the economy, they worry about risk. All of those things build up to an unknown, fear, insecurity. And a lot of times we can respond to that fear by doing the wrong things. What we try to do with the Retirement Blueprint is create a written plan that helps define our course of action. Regardless of who's in the White House, regardless of whether it's red or blue, we worry about green, your money. That's where we need to focus.
I knew I should have patented that line. He loves taking that
you
one
just
from
stole,
me.
You just stole mine.
I did. I enjoyed that.
It's all right.
But really, taking a look at it, right now with the interest rates moving around, it can't affect the bond portion of your portfolio. I think we want to point out to the viewers, even that safe money, that stuff you've been very excited about over the last year or so, 5% online high interest rate accounts that you might be able to put a little bit in. You might say to yourself, well, now it's still getting 4.5%, but it's better than a kick in the shin like we had 3 years ago.
Well, at a quarter a point.
At a quarter a point where you got nothing for your safe money there, but it's still worth reviewing right now. So folks, call the phone number down on the bottom of the screen. Interest rates moved. What does that mean to you? Tim isn't sure until we sit down and take a look at exactly what your holdings are. But let's make sure that anything that is tied to your interest rates in your portfolio is getting a review. You can do that right now. Call the phone number. We'll get you started on your own retirement blueprint. And another thing about some of the even current events, because we're worried about where Social Security is going, Tim put together a message about Social Security. Don't go anywhere. Watch this message. We'll be right back.
Social Security is easy, right? The question is, should I take it now or later? Well, there are dozens of ways that you can take Social Security if you're single, and hundreds if you're married. You've paid into the system for decades. Don't you want to make sure that you optimize your retirement income? Depending on how you've set up your other retirement accounts, your Social Security could either be tax-free or up to 85% taxable. It's not as simple as it might seem. So give us a call today. Let us uncomplicate Social Security for your retirement. Give us a call at 855-684-3485, or you can scan the QR code below to schedule your complimentary review.
One of the things that we're seeing in the office today is people are coming in with statements that are down 15, 20, 30%, and they're still needing that same income withdrawal, which means the percentage they're taking out from their portfolio is now higher, which increases that risk of running out of money in retirement. This is where planning for volatility really comes into play, and it's the biggest shift that we're making for new people coming in our office, trying to help them recover what they've lost, but also make sure that they don't run into that same situation down the road. When you're looking at retirement planning versus pre-retirement planning, that's the difference. One is about accumulation. It's about growing your money over time. Once you get to retirement, it's about distribution, which is a different strategy. At our office, what we focus on is giving jobs to the money. It's making sure that the dollars that we need to produce income have that volatility removed. That allows us to take risk in other areas because we have our income figured out. If volatility has been an issue, if you're looking at your statement right now and it's down 15, 20, 30%, do you know how you're going to get back? Do you know what you're going to do in the future if that happens again? If you don't, sit down with us for a complimentary review. Let us design a retirement blueprint to help you retire and, more importantly, stay retired.
Welcome back to the Retirement Blueprint Show with Tim Lofton of Axim Planning and Wealth. On today's retirement planning program, we're talking a little bit about some of the current events that are going on, the news or noise, and the things that are keeping us up at night, those things that go bump in the night when it comes to our retirement planning. We just looked at this one, unbelievable. Different studies have shown, this may have come from the 2024 Retirement Income Institute, looking at what Americans fear today even more than death, even more than the guy in the black robe with the sickle. Your favorite word. What is it that Americans today are fearing more than death itself?
Retirement.
Oh, come on.
I'm serious. Isn't that unbelievable? So more than death, they're worried about, if you think about it, if you died, I don't have to worry about retiring.
I guess,
right?
Yeah.
But no, it is. The study found more than any other area that retirement was a bigger fear.
And some of the driving factors, long-term care, not knowing what to do with a long and unpredictable stock market, the ups and downs of it, these incredible. It basically comes down to costs, is what you're saying.
But also lifestyle. That feeling of being disconnected. Understand when we go to the office every day, we're talking about current events and sports and all the things that are going on, and I think there's a little bit of a fear of being disconnected by not having that human interaction. It's just you and your spouse, or maybe the kids come to visit, but you're not having the normal day-to-day that you have in the past, and I think that is somewhat of a discomfort when people think about it.
And when you look at some of the research on even the younger generations right now, I just want to say to folks, social media, the computer, FaceTiming, that's not lifestyle and interacting. We need face-to-face time, doing things together. Have you done client events, other people who are likewise in age doing the same kind of things, giving them an opportunity to meet each other?
Yeah, I mean, when you have our live events, I think there is kind of a need. Everybody's there for the same reason. They're doing retirement for the first time. We've been doing retirement for over 30 years. We're good at it. We understand the ups and downs, the generational psychology, all the things that are wrapped up in it. When you're trying to figure out, when do I claim Social Security? How do I claim my pension? Do I still need life insurance? What happens if one of my kids decides to come back home and live in our basement while they're finding themselves? Those are real things.
Yes.
And they happen. Just to be clear, when your kid does come back home, even though you didn't think they were going to, and stays in your basement, they're probably going to bring a pet that you're probably going to end up keeping when they leave, because the apartment they go into doesn't allow pets.
Look, I just want to say this. At my parents' house, I do have my own separate door in the basement.
Nice. That's good.
So I feel a lot more self-empowered. But no, so many different things.
If you'd gone to Ohio State instead of ASU, you wouldn't have had that problem, Spike.
Hey, I love my ASU. The Cronkite School of Broadcasting did well, but this goes back to our inflation hangover.
Yes.
Haven't had one of those, hopefully, though, in the last couple of decades. But the fear is real. We like to have fun, folks. Hopefully you realize that. But we get that your fears are real. The things about am I going to have enough money for things like long-term care? Going back to that commercial from before that you put together, the fear on taking Social Security incorrectly, or the fear of turning it on so soon because I need this income now. But what is that?
It's a lifetime decision. I mean, once you turn it on, short of you paying it all back, you have that first 12 months, you could change your mind. You can give the government back their checks and get a reset. But this is a decision that you're making. This is something you've paid into 30, 40 years. You want to get that right. And that's one of the things that we like to help clients navigate is when you're making these decisions that are so impactful for the next 20, 30 years of your life, that you get them right.
I was talking with another person recently at dinner, a financial advisory group, and I loved watching you guys have this conversation. There are tools that the fear on the long-term care, being able to just save enough for it. Yeah. Look, if it's $5,000 to $10,000 a month, that's a big swing there, but it depends on your level of care. Either having home health care or going into a facility and going into a private room and going into needing memory care help, it becomes more and more expensive.
Right.
$8,000 to $10,000 a month, I mean, that's easily $100,000 more a year. How quickly will that eat into our nest egg just trying to pay for it dollar for dollar? Can you explain how maybe the tool works in being able to turn on a long-term care function?
Yeah, so one of the tools that's out there is they have certain products where you can put in an amount and get 2-3 times that amount as a benefit for long-term care, and it's tax-free. So this is an opportunity where you can start to pre-plan for long-term care, that potential risk, without worrying about the money that you're putting into it. If you don't use it, it's just going to go to your beneficiaries.
Yeah. I wish there was a tool out there where you could put money into it and get 3 times as much out for college planning.
That would have been super handy.
You're looking at that yourself, right?
There is a way. It's called When They Were Born. I invested the money, and now it's actually done that.
Yes. And that's just it. The entire world of the financial planning. A lot of parents have heard about that lately, using 529 plans.
Right.
But it's this fear again. More Americans today fearing the actual retirement. Shouldn't we be stepping into these retirement years relaxed, knowing that we've got enough? We don't have those pensions that our grandparents did, though.
That's right. And it is something that you can have. It starts with simply developing a plan. Having a sit down with us can alleviate fears because we put a plan together that alleviate the fears that you have. If you're not worried about anything to do with retirement, and then you're good, right? But most people are. This study shows that. When you fear retirement more than death, this is a call to action. Let's sit down and figure it out. Let's take the time to understand what you want to have happen in retirement, put together a plan that supports that, and more importantly, put together a plan that will keep you on track if things go the wrong way.
Thank you, Tim. I just want you to think about that out there yourself, folks. Is anything about your retirement planning keeping you up at night? Are you worried if you've saved enough? Do you know if your income is going to last as long as you live, as long as possibly your spouse lives? That's no way to step into retirement. Take care of it. Take care of those question marks right now. Call the phone number on the bottom of the screen. Let's get you started on your own retirement blueprint. We'll help you sleep at night by answering the questions for you. More with Tim Lofton of Accent Planning and Wealth and the Retirement Blueprint Show right after this.
The mistake that we see with a lot of people coming into our office is that they made a projection of how much money they were going to need maybe 20 years ago, and they didn't account for inflation in those figures. The average retiree is going to spend at least 20 years in retirement. That means that the cost of living is going to double at least one time. For example, if somebody 20 years ago said, I'm going to need $40,000 for my investments in retirement, that number is only worth $20,000 now. And So they actually needed to make sure they were looking for $80,000 if $40,000 net was their number back then. So as we're looking at the income needed in retirement, we have to have a plan in place that's going to double our income over that same period, or we're going to have to reduce our lifestyle, which is not what we worked all our lives for. Those are the types of things that we try and help clients with as they're planning out their future retirement to make sure that taxes and inflation are covered in those projections. If taxes and inflation are keeping you up at night, give us a call. Sit down, let us do a complimentary review with you and design your very own retirement blueprint. It's our trademark process that we've designed over the last 30 years to help you retire and stay retired. Do you own a business? Or maybe you have real estate, like investment properties or apartments. Here's my question. What happens if there's an accident and you get sued? I'm not an attorney, and I'm not here to talk to you about lawsuits. What I'm here to do is to tell you how you can protect what you've worked so hard for. That is what asset protection is. And we do it in our office with our estate planning attorneys. We talk about things like LLCs, making sure that you have a trust that will protect you in the event that something happens. If this or anything else like this has been on your to-do list, give us a call today. Let us take a look at what you're currently doing and see if we can make it better. 855-684-3485, or you can scan the QR code below and schedule your very own complimentary review. Let us make sure that your tomorrow is protected.
Welcome back. You're watching Tim Lofton of Axim Planning and Wealth, a retirement income specialist. I'm your host, Spike Spangle. We're talking about some of the current events in the financial news right now. But one of the things that bothered me over the past few weekends, watching any of the football games, did you watch the commercials during a lot of the football games over the last few months? What I noticed in nearly every single commercial break was a gambling app. Gambling, you used to have to go to Vegas, or if you knew a bookie 10 years ago, 15 years, you probably had a gambling problem. You used to have to go someplace, or you would play fun wagers on Super Bowl weekend with your friends and stuff like that.
Or office pools or things like that.
But to have gambling apps in the palms of our hands, it seems to be ever present on Monday and Tuesday morning at the office. And I'm sorry, $50 to $100 a weekend or more on that over 20 or 30 years. There's actually some numbers on what's happening to the investment industry with this gambling industry. How do you feel about them, Tim?
Well, you're bringing up a perfect example, and that, I think that's the answer. Is people say, well, it's just $50, just $100, but what you're bringing to people's attention is so important. $50 to $100 a week over 20 years. What kind of difference does that make to your retirement and to your savings, or to the paying off of debt, or whatever the case may be? You know, for entertainment, like, I'm already watching entertainment on television, watching the football game.
Yeah.
Do I need additional entertainment to find that excitement? I mean, I don't get it.
I remember as of 5 or 6 years ago, we'd get together in a Yahoo group or a Google group, and we would just pick the games, right?
Right.
And then we'd all have our goofy names, and then on Tuesday morning, we'd see who won, and we'd be watching each. But now we got to put money on it to enjoy it. We've lost, I think, some of the ability to have a long-term focus. And having to do retirement planning, you've got to have a long-term focus, right?
It does. It requires absolutely a degree of intentionality where you understand where you're going, and that's the great thing about my job is it is somewhat easy to define. If somebody sits down with me and says, Tim, in 20 years, here's how much income that I want, I can do all the math. I can do the future value calculation. I can factor in inflation and taxes and come to them and say, if you save this amount of money on a monthly basis, you'll get there. But when people are taken away from that with making choices to spend money other ways at the expense of retirement, understand what that consequence is. You're basically saying, if I have to work another 5 or 10 years longer, I'm okay with it. And if that's the case, great, no problem. But I think this is an area that we do need to question.
Yeah, the immediate information, the immediate, did I win, did I lose? You know, we do that so much with our phones and tablets and everything. We've got to get back to knowing that these small amounts can actually make a difference. You know, the $5 a day on, you know, your gourmet coffee. Me, I prefer to make it at home. I just like it that way. There are things that we want to choose to spend things on, but these small things, I mean, this goes back to like the most fundamental example when they say, if you save $100 and it earns this starting at age 20, you'll have $1 million by this age.
Right.
But if you do it in your 30s, it's got to be $250 every. It's the most basic one, and I just feel we're throwing it out the window.
And my concern is that I believe this is impacting younger and younger kids.
Yeah.
You know, where, you know, you're 18, 19, 20 years old. Do you really have $50 or $100 extra? You know, have you even started saving for retirement? And I understand that you know, the generational thinking. I was there, you were there. We're not thinking about retirement. That's for old people. Right?
Yeah.
But eventually you're going to be an old person. I can attest to that. And what you do matters. And when you start matters. It makes a difference. And so just something to keep in mind, you know, as you're watching those football games, they're selling you beer and insurance. Don't buy the gambling app, maybe, right? I mean,
yeah. I mean, instead of looking at that, if you're doing something on your phone, yeah, enjoy watching the game, text back and forth with your friends and so forth. But why don't you get yourself onto a financial education website and see, what do I need to save to be able to get me to where I want to go, so you can stop and enjoy into your retirement years. One last review, folks. Yeah. I didn't want to do this at the top of the show because I thought you were going to think it was a repeat, but it's not. Third year in a row, reporting from LIMRA, independent reporting agency, millions and millions and millions of dollars still flowing into this one retirement tool. What is it, Tim?
It has been annuities. Listen, people are tired of gambling, as we were just talking about.
Nicely done.
They're tired of gambling with their retirement. They want their grandfather's pension plan. Quite simply put, $385 billion went into annuities last year. Why? Because people want guaranteed income. They want to know what's going to happen. They don't want to leave it to chance. This year, we're on a record-breaking.
It's about $116 billion so far, just in the first quarter.
Right.
It could be on record, but also to go back to radio and TV, we've done a couple of weeks ago. Interest rates have started to come down. So I'm wondering, do you think this will affect this sector here?
I don't, because I think that, you know, if I'm getting ready to retire and I know I need X amount of income and I'm worried of where that's going to come from and I don't want to leave it to chance, that's probably one of the tools that I'm going to investigate.
Right. One thing we can say about the current news noise, is it keeping you up at night, is please don't be changing your decision just because of what you're seeing on the daily news, those different things. Get the retirement blueprint. I'll give you 20 seconds to get out, Tim.
Yeah, so this is real simple. If you're tired of gambling on your retirement, if you're tired of leaving things to chance, if you're watching the headlines and it keeps you up at night, give us a call. 855-684-3485. Let us plan your tomorrow today.
Tim, I couldn't have said it better myself. Get your own retirement income specialist like the team here at Axim Planning and Wealth. Call the phone number. You can sit down with Tim Lofton himself. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week.